I was like, I want to run a marathon. So I woke up and ran a marathon the next day. I have like this unwavering self-belief to the point where most of my friends and family probably say it's delusion. Like, I genuinely do think that I can achieve anything I want to. Just staying true to you and to things that you believe in and things that you like. And if you like to dress a certain way or you like certain hobbies, I would just say to my younger self, like, just stick to you. Running is something to be enjoyed and not feared, especially when it comes to like longer races. It sounds scary, it's not necessarily scary. You can enjoy yourself and you're allowed to enjoy yourself. My name's Emily. I am a runner. I run ultra marathons. That's what I'm commonly most known for. And there's not really much more to me apart from the fact that I just absolutely love running. And I'd say I'm quite a positive person. I'd say that's probably what I'm most known for, like my race videos of me really, really enjoying marathons and things like that, things I probably should not be enjoying. So yeah, I'm 21. I didn't go to uni, unfortunately. And yeah, just do all of this sort of full time.
So there's so much I want to get into, and I think let's start with kind of the positivity element of your personality, because that's something that not everybody can put across through a screen, right? But you do that incredibly well, and I think that's one of the reasons you've kind of gained the following that you have, just kind of that positive nature of your content. Have you always had that? Is that something you've had to work on, or have you always been that positive person throughout your life?
I've been quite positive quite a lot of my life.
Wow.
I'm quite lucky. I think my mum is really positive, so I honestly just think it's like the way I've been brought up. And I just don't overthink things too much. I think that's also something that helps. I did struggle a little bit with my mental health when I was younger, but I always still had that positive element to things. And like, even when I was struggling, I was quite still optimistic. Like, I would say I'm very optimistic. So yeah, I think it's always just been part of me. But thank you for saying I get that across, because I do try, and I try and make running come across positive and everything come across positive, because it is and does wonders for our mental health. So yeah, I think that's also part of it, because I enjoy what I do so much. There's no reason not to be so positive.
Yeah, and I think that's something that you can see, right? And like, if you're enjoying something and you're kind of filming it and putting it out as content, I think it's very obvious whether you are actually enjoying it or you're kind of faux enjoying it, if that makes sense. And I think there is a bit of that around as well, but you're very much actually enjoying it.
Yeah, I try and get that across, because a lot of people, I think, it's so hard on the internet nowadays, because you do have some people that do sort of post like marathons all about suffering and going into like the pain cave. And don't get me wrong, like I've been to the pain cave, like I've sat up my chair, like I've been there, done that, got a t-shirt. However, I do think it can then sometimes deter people from doing hard things, because they're scared of going into this like really negative, scary place. And I try and get across that like it may come across, but if you do get to that place, it doesn't last forever. It's going to be absolutely fine. Everything's so temporary. And yeah, running is something to be enjoyed and not feared, especially when it comes to like longer races. Like, although you may have this whole David Goggins-esque do hard things, and it sounds scary. It's not necessarily scary. You can enjoy yourself, and you're allowed to enjoy yourself.
I think you'll appreciate this, because like, I'm in a position now where like my own personal running journey, and everybody, will have their own journey and things they want to do, is a time orientated one. And I want to get below a specific time for a marathon. And then once I've done that, genuinely, I never want to run a marathon again. I just want to go and run far and have fun and enjoy the days out. But when you say that to people, they're like, what do you mean? Like, enjoy the days out and like go and run 50 miles and like have a nice time doing it. I'm like, that to me is more enjoyable and quote unquote, I don't like the harder, easier than trying to run really fast for a shorter period of time. Like,
100%.
it is all about that enjoyment at the end of the day, isn't it? And like, it doesn't matter whether you've got the goals of like a time-based goal like I have, or, you should always come back to that enjoyment, I think.
Yeah, 100%. And like I've been in races before where I've had a time goal and just absolutely sacked it off because I'm like, I'm not enjoying myself. I don't want to, no part of me actually is going to probably hit this time goal unless some sort of miracle happens. So let's just like sack it in and enjoy it. And I'm so big on just like, you don't necessarily, having a time goal is great. Having a time goal is so motivating and can help you even complete or train for a race, because some people like to have those metrics. But in the same breath, you don't have to have a time goal. If you want to, like London Marathon, I was the slowest marathon I've ever done, but probably the best conditions, because I was just going around hugging everyone and saying hi to everyone. And because I had no time goal and I just wanted to go out and enjoy myself. And sometimes that's all you need to do. You don't need a time goal, but in the same breath, it is very motivating and exciting to have a time goal.
You'll definitely remember those days where you've enjoyed it out there, whatever the distance, over the days that you've like suffered out there though. So like that London Marathon, I'm sure like down the line will always stick with you because of the memories that you've got, because like going around hugging people and enjoying it, that's much better than like suffering around 26.2.
Yeah, completely. And like, if I compare my two 100K ultra marathons I did, the first one, obviously, it was my first 100K. So I was like, I don't know what time I'm going to get. I'm just going to enjoy myself. And I had a great time. Obviously, it was still very difficult because it was far. But it took me, 14 and a half hours, I think. So it was considerably slower in comparison to the second one, which had like 2,500, whatever it was, meters of elevation. And although it was significantly harder and I did it like 2 hours quicker, although I did enjoy it, I didn't enjoy it as much because I had such a time goal and I was like really trying to push myself. So like I would say like 40K of it was just like tears and suffering, which obviously you can look back on and be like, wow, that's actually really served me, because I now know I can do these extremely hard challenges and I'm able to push myself. But in the same breath, during the moment, I wasn't necessarily present because I was so deep in this pain cave, in comparison to the previous one where I was running with the fairies and I was just enjoying myself and having my flapjack, and it was all easy.
There's growth that comes out of both, isn't there? I think, and that's the most important thing. Like, even to say at this point at 21, you know, for you, in my second 100K, like that's a bit of a mad thing to say. Like, you're at this point already where you've done the things that you've done. Let's go back a little bit and just get a little bit of like a history lesson into you, I guess. Where did this first come around, this running part of your personality? Has that always been there, or is it something that kind of you've nurtured through the years?
So it's tricky. So I did run a little bit when I was younger. I did some like the cross country at school, like the school's race and stuff like that. But I was always like the worst out of the best group that got picked. Like there'd be like us 5 girls, I would be the one that comes last. Don't get me wrong, like I qualified for 2 or so races, but I think you had to come in top 50 and I came 50th. Like it was ridiculous. Like I was quite bad. And then stopped running because I was sort of taking the mick out for the way I run. I run sort of quote unquote like a chicken. So, and obviously when you are 12 years old, you take those sort of comments really to heart. So I stopped running, ran a little bit in COVID, you know, where everyone did the whole like run 5, nominate 5. And then I just went into the lifting world and then started running again 2024, last year in February. I'd been running for, I want to say 2 weeks or 3 weeks again. And I was like, I want to run a marathon. So I woke up and ran a marathon the next day. A horrendous decision. I just ran it in the local forest with like, no word of a lie, 8 gummy bears and like a water bottle. Horrendous. It was throwing it down with rain. But like it was so tough. But then I was like, well, if I can run a marathon off the bat, I can run 100K. So then like a week later booked the Thames Path 100K, which is what I then ran in September as like my first 100K distance. So essentially, dabbled here and there, but properly since February last year.
Have you always had that? Like, I guess it's slightly impulsive, right? To be like, I'm gonna run a marathon. Like, I'm gonna run 100K. Like, not in a negative way, because I actually think impulsion sometimes can be very, very positive, because it's that thing that motivates you to just do and don't I guess fester on something and then talk yourself out of it. So like you woke up, you said, I'm going to run a marathon, and then you did it.
Yeah.
And then you kind of said, I'm going to do 100K, and you've entered it, and then you don't really have a choice. Like, but have you always been like that?
I think so. I have like this unwavering self-belief to the point
Okay.
where most of my friends and family probably say it's delusion. Like I genuinely do think that I can achieve anything I want to. And I think it's just like I've sort of said earlier, because I don't overthink things too much and I just sort of do. And that's applied throughout academics, work, just everything since I was younger. I've always been like, no, I can do it. I can do it. If I want to. If I want to do something, I will get it done. So I think I just thought, oh well, what's the worst that can happen? Waking up and running a marathon, not thinking it'd be that hard. Very hard. Very, very hard. But yeah, I think that that's sort of always been a part of my personality.
8 gummy bears. That's amazing. You're
Oh,
like, it was 8 gummy
you need
bears. You're like, that's not enough.
honestly, you need more food than that. It's because I bought a packet and I only like the red and the black part, like the black part one. So I was like, well, leaving the orange, the lemon and the lime home, only gonna take
Oh, that's
8.
so funny.
And yeah, don't do that. Never do that,
No,
ever.
don't do that. I think doubt is one of those things that really holds us back, like in anything that we do as humans, though. So, like to say you've got that unwavering self belief, I think that probably now looking sort of from the outside is one of the reasons, alongside the positivity, that you have got this connection with this big audience now, because you don't doubt the things that you put out in the short term. You might look back at them and think, oh, I wish I'd done this, or I wish I'd done that. But that initial phase of like, this needs to just go out, that has probably helped you in building that audience as well, right?
Yeah, completely. And I think again with like the not overthinking things too much, like I don't overthink my content and I try and just come across as Emily, because obviously if people meet you in real life and they think, well, that's not the same person I've been watching, then obviously I would never want to come across like not authentic. So I think that also helps as well, because I'm like, well, even if what I'm about to put out isn't the most clean cut, best edited video in the world, it's me. So as long as I'm getting that across, then I honestly do not mind. Like as long as it's true to myself, then that's what I want to sort of stand by.
And I think people forget as well that your personality kind of comes through the way your content looks, not just what is in that content. So like that's a really interesting thing to say. Like it might not be the most high produced piece of content, but like it's me. Like this is what I do and this is who I am, which I
Mm.
really love actually, because that is what a social media profile should be in essence, shouldn't it? It should
Yeah,
be kind of like an add-on to you. And I think sometimes you do meet people, and I've certainly come across people in my life that you enjoy consuming online, and then you meet
yeah.
them in person, you're like, oh, you're not the same person. Like,
Yeah,
what? I don't understand.
yeah, completely, 100%. Yeah, you always have like a false expectation. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
like you're not the same person, and I'd never want anyone to have that with me. Like in my head, we're all mates. Like whenever I go to race, and people always say like, "Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt, but like I follow you." I'm like, "Don't be sorry." Like in my head, we're all friends. So always come over. Um, but yeah, just trying to like, because the content that I like to watch as well is when people are being themselves, and it's not
Yeah.
necessarily the most clean edited. Like I can appreciate when things are videoed really well and it's good camera skills and things like that, but it's not the sort of content I consume as well. So I think it's important, if I'm like, oh, if content I like to enjoy is people that really get the personality across and I can really strongly relate to them and I can see they're truly being them, then I obviously want to do the same, and I want to have that kind of connection with my audience as well and have that relationship so they can feel like they can come up to me and speak about things or DM me about, I don't know, asking for advice about previous issues or things like that. I just want to come across as real as possible.
It's all happened quite quickly as well, right? Like this ultra part of what you now do. Like to say
Yeah.
that you did your first marathon in 24 and then you've moved forward to like that first ultra. Is that right? The
Yeah.
first marathon when you stepped out the door was
Mm,
2024? Yeah.
yeah.
And then like you move forward with your first ultra in the same year, like, or the first 100K, sorry, in the same year. What is that? What was that journey like? Because there's so much in between those things. Did you kind of break it down and say, right, there are these stepping stones that I need to do to get to the 100K, or how did that journey from 8 gummy bears to, I'd imagine, a lot more food on the 100K work?
Oh yeah, 100%. I was eating Percy pigs, blackjacks. I think I even had like spaghetti bolognese at the 50K mark.
Go on. Love that.
Rogue choice, but it was great. But yeah, no, I think there's sort of two avenues I can sort of answer that. First one being obviously I then was like, right, I can't just keep going outside and just like running marathons off the bat. I need to properly train for this and build up my body and build up strength and keep going to the gym so I don't get injured and things like that. But I also needed to completely almost have like a rebirth of my personality, because I think I still obviously had some traits and things that weren't going to get me to 100K. For example, staying up late or being lazy with my nutrition, or just there's other things like perhaps procrastinating and things like that, that although it's not directly correlated and related to running, it actually did benefit it, and was able to get me to the 100K. So although people may just sort of look at it and think about the running aspect, oh, did you build up your mileage? How did you do that? What other races did you do? I also completely sort of went through this massive change of personality for the better, like taking better care of myself and sort of almost maturing in a very short space of time, which although I guess whatever it was, 6 7 months of not complete personality change, but very quick personality change, although I wouldn't recommend it to anyone, it definitely did help and save me, in terms like mentally and also physically for the 100K, because I couldn't have got it done with like the habits and things I was doing back in February.
Yeah. Was there a turning point there then? Like obviously the kind of I guess the looming of the 100K, right? That's like I need to make sure that I do these things to get to that point. But I guess taking it back another step, was there a point that you were like in February in that sort of time, like I can't do this anymore, like this doesn't make me feel good, these habits aren't good for me?
I think there wasn't like one striking moment, but it was more like recognizing how much your little daily habits can actually really impact things like performance or just how you wake up in the morning and feel and things like that. Obviously I'm not going to dismiss the fact that I do love things like a pizza in the evenings, and like I will happily have a takeaway and things like that. However, you do wake up in the morning feeling a bit groggy, and if you're doing that, for example, multiple times a week, or just like not paying attention to like the amount you're sleeping and like procrastinating going to bed and things like that, if you're not taking proper care of yourself, it does accumulate until you realize and recognize like, oh, I really don't feel like myself. I don't even recognize myself in the mirror because I look so tired. I don't look well. So I think because I dropped out of university in December, I'd come home, and I wasn't in a great mental space. I think it's like the winter and obviously dropping out of uni, you're just a bit all over the place. I think I just hadn't proper kick-started like, right, I want to start looking after myself again post uni. I hadn't kick-started that until I'd done the marathon and booked the ultra, and I was like, right, you can't keep going like this. You can't possibly, the version of yourself that's going to run the 100K can't possibly do it if you do not take better care of yourself and start going to bed on time and eating a little bit better and eating a bit more consistent and things like that.
Take me back to December then. Like you have mentioned uni a couple of times. Like when we first started the conversation, you mentioned about uni, and obviously we've touched on it there again. Like that decision to drop out and kind of not do that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Was that tough? Like, do you miss that part of your life? Is there regret there? Like, how do you feel about it reflecting back?
Oh, I sort of went to uni not wanting to go to uni, in complete
Okay.
honesty, which is crazy considering I was like A-star student, A stars at A levels. Like in GCSEs, I'd get some of the highest grades in the year for certain exams. Like I was a massive overachiever when it came to academics. I absolutely loved it. But I took a year out, and then I just absolutely dreaded going to uni. And just going back to exams and things like that really made me anxious. And then I started posting on social media at the time, just talking about like my previous issues with mental health and like how fitness helped and things. And it started doing really well. Out of like, I'm talking within 6 weeks, I went from 0 to 100K. It just blew up. And I couldn't balance both. Like the opportunities I was receiving on social media, I was so blessed. I was so fortunate. But I just couldn't balance both uni and social media and wanted to go down that route. So when I spoke to like the academic advisor, expecting him to tell me to stay at uni and get a good education and things like that, he said, go. He was like, enjoy yourself. You can come back whenever you want. And I was like, great. To my parents' absolute despair, they were hoping he was going to convince me to stay, but he told me to leave. So I was like, right, that's all I need to know. I'm getting out of here. See you guys later. Which was kind of sad in respect that I had some lovely friends. I had a lovely group of flatmates at uni, amazing, but I just knew I just couldn't, for my own mental sake of balancing things. And if I wanted to pursue social media, I just couldn't do both. So I thought, let's just tap out whilst we can.
You know what? Fair play to them. Like, fair play to that academic advisor for saying that, because I think, like, looking back at my university experience, like, obviously it was a bit further away than yours was. I think I was in uni probably about 10 years ago. And I think I always say when people ask me, like, should I go to uni or whatever, you're like, it's a really difficult question to answer because it's so individualistic. Like, you can't just say, yes,
Yeah.
it's a good thing. Like, for me, going to uni was amazing because I was from a rural background. I went to a city. I kind of met a lot of people. I got into the industry that I was going to get into, but through kind of student radio and stuff like that, which was brilliant. And the course didn't really do anything for me, but the fact that I was in that situation did. And like,
Yeah.
even for you listening to that, for him to say that to you, like for the academic advisor to say, just give it a crack. Like, that might have
Yeah.
been the reason you went, almost,
Yeah,
when you think of it like
completely.
that.
Yeah, he was great. He was so positive. And this is not to shame the older generation at all, but he must have been about 60. Like he
Right, okay.
obviously didn't completely understand the concept of social media and making money on social media and things like that. So the fact that he was so confident in my ability to leave, and because he could see how much more passionate I was about pursuing social media and things full time in comparison to staying at uni, the fact that he was so encouraging, I honestly think that that man saved my life in terms of like
Yeah.
career wise, enjoyment, maybe even mental health, because God knows how I would have felt after being there for a little bit longer. But yeah, I thought really good on them. It was really great for him to be so positive about it.
And you mentioned like time there as well. I think that's one thing that people sometimes don't consider. Like, you can't do everything. Like, you just genuinely can't, whether that's like in your athletic endeavor or whether it's your, personal life or work life, or that balance. There's no way that you could have probably got to the point you're at now and also stayed in uni and
Yeah.
had like a positive mental headspace, because it's just like you're pushing too much in. It's like trying to stuff a suitcase that's too small with your holiday clothes. Like, it's just not possible.
Literally, 100%. As an overpacker, I know exactly how that feels as well. Um, yeah, no, I would have been spreading myself way too thin, and I
Yeah.
will hold my hand up and say I'm very much culprit of spreading myself too thin, as it is anyway. I just love to have my fingers in lots of different pies, as the phrase goes. But it's just not doable and it's not sustainable. And I definitely wouldn't been able to push socials as much as I have and enjoy it as much as I have, because I absolutely love it. If I was still at uni, I just wouldn't be able to balance it, or either that or my grades would slip. So, and
Yeah.
I couldn't afford to do that, and I cared too much about academic validation to let those slip. So that would have, yeah, it would have been an absolute mess, but wouldn't luckily didn't go down that path. So thank God.
And then you beat yourself up about that, and then the other stuff starts slipping, and then you beat yourself up about that, and then it's just like this vicious circle of like,
Cycle.
yeah, it would have been mental. But you like,
Yeah,
again, fair play to that bloke, and I hope, I hope he listens back to some of the content that you do in the future and be like, you know what, I gave some good advice there. That was good
exactly.
advice.
100%. Yeah, I wish I
Definitely.
had still had his email or something so I could just tell him and be like, "This is thanks to you. Thank you so much." Honestly, but yeah, great.
0 to 100K in 6 weeks is mad. Like, that is an insane stat. Um, and also a lot to deal with. Like,
Yeah,
for you as a person to be posting and then be like, oh my God, I kind of just thought maybe a few people would follow me, but then it's done this. Like,
yeah.
how was dealing with that, like understanding what was happening?
I mean, it was. I just didn't think about it too much. I think at the time, a common theme, not thinking too much. But
I like it.
I just didn't. Yeah, I didn't overthink it too much. And I've always been a very open book, very, very open book. So I feel like when it came to the sharing it on social media side of things, I was absolutely fine because if it could help one person, that's great. And that's always been like my thought process when it comes to sharing my journey. If I can help, I like to imagine like if there's people like younger versions of myself watching my content, if I can help at least one younger Emily, then that's great just by documenting my journey. So the fact that obviously it did well and got as much traction as it did, I mean, was just a bonus because it means I can help more people. And touch wood, I'm very lucky that I've landed on a really nice side of the internet. So I've never really received any kind of hate or anything like that. It's always been really, really positive. But in terms of obviously balancing it with like the training side of things, I obviously was still just trying to find my feet when it came to training for 100K. So when I did like my first 50 and like my first proper marathon, it was all very new to me. So I think in terms of sharing it, it was exciting, but I was also very conscious of like, right, I don't want to give out the wrong information. I don't want to act like I know everything about ultras when I definitely do not. It was just about obviously just sharing my experience and how Emily's going to make her way get through this in the next few months, rather than being like a know-it-all and being like, I know everything now about ultras and running. I'm going to share all the information like it's gospel, when I was just sort of finding my feet with it and just sharing the journey along the way.
What you mentioned younger Emily there, you know, what would be the things that you would go back and tell younger Emily, not necessarily about running, but just about life? Like, are there things that you would go back and say to her?
There's probably two things. One, no one really cares that much. I think I was very self-conscious when
Okay.
I'd say probably about 15, 16, 17. I think we all go sort of through that phase, don't we? As teenagers of like wanting to impress the boys or the girls, or like wanting to make sure you fit in with the popular group and things like that. And I definitely cared way too much about other people's opinion or what others thought of me, or even dating it back to when I used to run and people used to take the mick out of the way I used to run, and I would really take it to heart. But at the end of the day, no one cares. Absolutely no one cares. And just staying true to you and to things that you believe in and things that you like. And if you like to dress a certain way or you like certain hobbies, I would just say to my younger self, like, just stick to you. And if people think you're weird or if people think you're cringe or whatever, that's way more of a reflection upon them. And that's one of the reasons I try and be so myself on the internet, because yes, some people probably may find me cringe, but some people may find it nice that I'm performing as myself and showing up as myself. So I try and get that across. And then the other side of it is I used to struggle with an eating disorder quite bad when I was 16 in 2020. I think a lockdown, quite a lot of people seem to struggle with their eating habits. And I would just be to my younger self that, like, you are going to get out of it and it's okay to eat a little bit more. You're a growing girl, you know, you need to be eating enough, especially if you want to be training and if you want to support that training and you want to get better. You're not going to get better by trying to shrink yourself. And I do still think sometimes when it comes to running, sometimes people think, oh, running needs to have a certain body size or we need to look a certain way, so they don't eat enough. And I'm like, no, I promise you now, if you want to get stronger, if you want to, especially if you want to dip into ultra running and things like that, there's no way you're going to get across that finish line with a few gummy bears. You need to be eating a lot more. You need to be pushing yourself, and it's okay to do so. It's okay to eat more and fuel for that performance.
How did you move through that period? You know, as 16-year-old Emily who was struggling with an eating disorder, with those unhealthy habits towards food, like that's a very difficult thing to, one, accept, and two, then
Mhm.
move through, because again, you kind of have to change your whole thought process towards things, don't you? Like it's not just a
Yeah,
you need to go and eat more. It's like,
yeah.
I need to like change the relationship of actually how I look at this thing.
Yeah, completely. I think it was a mixture of things, definitely reaching out for help. And I've always encouraged people to reach out for help because you also don't know who around you is struggling or has struggled in the past and things like that. So even just speaking to friends and family and just sort of making them aware, that's something that took me quite a while to do, although I think people could very visibly see that I was not
Yeah.
thriving on the outside. I really struggled to speak about it because I just brushed it off. And I was like, no, it's fine. I'm okay. It's all right. So speaking to people around you, that definitely is something that helped me, and not hiding it all inside. And although it was an eating disorder, it was more to do with like deeper issues. So I think speaking to someone, whether it's a professional or even journaling, I'm a very big advocate for journaling. I still have all my journals that I've wrote in for the past coming up 6 years.
Oh wow, that's
It's a
cool.
big stack of it's a big stack of them. It's great. But writing things out, because then you can sort of figure yourself out a little bit better. As obviously as a teenager, you're growing and developing and things like that. So when I was writing things out, I was realizing like, okay, maybe I'm not restricting my food because I necessarily want to look a certain way, but maybe it's because this person's made this comment and it's made me feel worthless, or because someone mentioned this, or this has happened in my life and that's made me feel anxious, so I'm trying to control everything. Little things like that, like realizing that although I was struggling with my eating, that was almost the vessel for deeper issues. And like when I went to a therapist and she said, well, you have an eating disorder but you're actually depressed, I was like, oh, that makes a little bit more sense actually. So sort of journaling, reaching out to people, those sort of things helped. And then realizing that obviously you can't continue to live that way, because I just felt I had no personality. I didn't find anything funny anymore. And that's obviously not great when you're trying to be sociable as a 16, 17-year-old. So just realizing that obviously eating that way and trying to live that life is not sustainable and just didn't serve me. It's also something that really helped.
The idea of control isn't really something that I've ever thought about, and I've spoke to people on this podcast lots, and I think everybody has, to an extent, well, not everybody, but a lot of people have experiences with disordered eating rather than eating disorders. I know, like, there will be a lot of people listening that have had eating disorders and have got through that, but I think it's more common that people have disordered eating at some point in their life because of a certain thing, and actually relating it to control, I think, is quite an interesting thing to talk about, because when everything else is kind of falling around you, potentially, like the
Mhm,
house of cards is coming down,
mhm.
things like eating is something that you can be like, well, nobody else can kind of change this for me. Like, I can do exactly what I want with this. And yeah, that
Yeah.
idea of control is a very interesting one, I think.
Yeah, it's something that I never really thought about until I sort of got into it a little bit deeper. And I was like, especially as women, I mean, men have it as well. And I think it's becoming more of a problem that we're always taught that we need to like change something about ourselves, especially now social media is getting bigger and bigger. We're never perfect. We always need to change something. And obviously, when things are sort of falling apart around you, like at the time, obviously it was COVID. I had a grandparent pass away, and then I had a dad in hospital. Like it was a lot in one go for a 16-year-old girl. Um, the first thing you think of is, oh my God, everything's out of control. I feel so unstable. What is one thing I can control? And that's my food. And I think although it does happen when we are older and we tend to control, I think I then looked back and I was like, oh, I can actually see how my friend did this when she was 12, when her parents were going through a divorce. And I thought that she just didn't like certain foods, but actually I think she was restricting her food. And I think it's something that, although we don't consciously try and control our food and we necessarily see it as an issue, I think it's something that deeper down, a lot of us tend to do it not necessarily by accident, but just like as a result of stressful situations. We try and control food or what we look like or things like that, because obviously it's the easiest thing to us or closest thing to us to control. And we're also taught that we do need to control these things and change them about ourselves because of social media. So it just seems to always funnel into food or appearance or things like that.
And it's also that feeling of inside I feel a mess, but if
Yeah.
I look what I quote unquote should look like, or I think people want me to look like on the outside, they're not going to
Mhm.
know that inside I'm actually like really hurting, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But actually, it's the ironic thing is it's actually probably kind of the opposite, because people kind of
Yeah.
know you that you're
Completely.
hurting inside, and then they can probably see that you're hurting yourself as well.
Yeah, completely. Like I had so many comments, and one that always stuck with me was like my friend's mum, and she was like, she hadn't seen me in probably like 2, 3 months, and she was like, "You look so good. You look unreal." And I obviously knew I hadn't been eating, and I was like, "Oh, And my mum was obviously there, and she was like, yeah, she's been working out lots. But my mum knew deep down that she'd been working out lots. I was not well, but obviously you can't straight up just say to someone, oh, I've not been eating. So when you get that sort of external praise as well, that sort of then feeds into it. But people that are close to you, well, at the time close to me, knew she's doing it for the wrong reasons and she's not okay. But externally, people probably think you're very put together, you're working out lots, you're healthy, you're on the right track, you're doing really well. So sometimes, yeah, that is tricky to sort of navigate and recognize when try and differentiate a good thing from a bad thing when people are sort of telling you look amazing and things like that, when realistically you're not doing too well.
It's strange because you hold on to those positive things as well. Like I'm sure you've had that where somebody goes, "Oh, you look dead skinny," and you're like, "Yes," and you're like, "Oh, hang on, that's probably not the like." Now looking back at that, that's probably like a bit of a weird thing to think about. But at that time, I would imagine it was like almost positive reinforcement.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, at the time it was definitely positive reinforcement. I saw it was a good thing. But obviously reflecting back on it now, I just know that they haven't seen me in ages. They didn't know any better. They just thought I was working out a lot. They didn't realise the things I'd done to sort of get there, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
And it's like a
Yeah.
door opening, isn't it? When you realize kind of like the performance element of things as well, which again, as you said, you had to get to, because if you're going from pretty much zero to 100K in terms of the running, like there has to be a performance element to that. And you have to fuel your body to be able to get to that distance and get to that point. Otherwise, yeah, that's not going to happen. Like that's not a thing
Yeah,
that's going to be able to happen.
no, completely. You will just get injured, or something that's really common in women is we lose our periods, obviously, and then
Yeah.
that has so many obviously implications. I mean, men can get low testosterone, that then has its issues in itself. So yeah, not eating isn't just necessarily going to change your body size when you're trying to train for performance. It's going to get you injured, fatigued. It could put you out the game for really, really long periods of time. So it's so important. That's why I try and push it across on my social media so much. Like I do eat a lot, and I encourage you guys to do the same, because I promise you're not gonna see massive change in your body or anything like that. You're just gonna feel really good in your performance. You're gonna recover really well from your training sessions, and you're not gonna get injured. And that is the biggest one, because lots of people, I think, pick up little aches and pains in marathon training or ultra marathon training or even half marathon training, and they don't go away, and they're like, oh, why won't my shin pain go away, or why do I keep getting issues with my ankles? And one of the reasons could be because you're just not eating enough, and you're just your recovery is awful, because you're under fueling essentially.
Right, let's get on to that first 100K, because, there were lots of stepping stones to that point. And I do encourage everybody to go and have a look at Emily's social media. I'm sure you follow, but if you don't, go and do that. There are a couple of pinned reels right at the top, which cover a few things that actually we've already been talking about. So definitely watch them. But then scroll back, have a little look through some of the journey to that first 100K, and then make sure you watch the finishing reel of that first 100K, because it's very special. When it comes to that race itself, it was the Thames Path 100, was it?
Yeah,
Was that right? Yeah.
yeah.
Um, how did you feel standing on the start line? And then I guess talk me through the race until that moment that culminated in you finishing your first 100K.
I honestly, standing on the start line, I was like, I actually can't believe I'm doing this. Like, I can't believe I'm
I love
doing this. I was like, wow, we are actually here. Like, we're not just all talk, Emily, you're actually doing this. So although I was like partially nervous, but more excited, because I'm very extroverted and I love running. So I was like, this is amazing. So many people to chat to. They can't run away from me because no one has the energy during a race, and I'm running. Like, I was what's not to love? The sun is shining. So we started off quite early. I think it was, I want to say 7 a.m. And yeah, just running on the Thames Path, which, although in hindsight you think, oh, nice and flat, really easy, you're actually engaging the same muscles for the entire 100K. It's not like you're going uphill and then downhill and you're using different muscle groups. It was tough because you were using the same muscle groups, but I live in a very flat area, so I didn't really mind it. And I felt great, actually, probably up until, I want to say, the 60K, 70K mark, and I felt horrendous. But luckily, I managed to find these two guys that I'd sort of been running near. We've been like running in front of each other, and then they'd overtake me, and I'd overtake them, and they'd overtake me. And I ended up latching onto them for probably about 20K. And they were I want to say they were probably about 45. Like they had children. They were great, and because obviously you're with them for such a long amount of time, I learned everything about them. I'm talking divorce. I'm talking what their children do. I'm talking everything about their partners, their whole running journey. It was great, and so yeah, I latched onto them for a little bit. There was another girl who was a little bit older than me who I spoke to for probably about 10K, and then going to the finish line, I partnered up with this guy called Peter, who I still speak to now, actually, who at the time I think was 17 or 18. Bless him, he was so young. And we ended up just chatting into the dark because I was not looking forward to running in the dark. But yeah, it was a great race up until probably about that 60K mark. But that's when I just started chatting to loads of people just to really take your mind off of it. Otherwise, you do get in your own head thinking, oh, my hamstring hurts, my calf hurts, my foot hurts. Well, obviously it's going to hurt. You've been on your feet for a very long time. And just speaking to other people and realizing you are not the only one that is in pain right now can just help so much. But it was a great day. I had so many people come out and support me as well, which was really, really, really sweet. But didn't end up finishing till about 10 p.m., 10:30 at night. It was late, dark and cold.
It's so amazing, those memories that you kind of get from a race like that. Like, it's so cool as well to see you recount them and also, share those people and those stories that you kind of had along the way. Because I think if you've done an ultra, you'll be able to relate to that so much. Like, the stories that
Yeah.
people tell you on the trail, you're like, you wouldn't get from anywhere else. You wouldn't have that experience anywhere else. And that's
No.
such a cool thing about an ultra, because you don't get that in a,
Yeah.
fast road race.
No, completely. And yeah, that's why I love the ultra community, because everyone's just so chatty and so supportive.
Yeah.
And they'll just, because you're all in the same position, you're all in pain, you're all struggling, they will honestly tell you anything and everything. And it's great. And you can just chat for
You're
hours and hours and
fine.
hours. Yeah, it's unbelievable. And I had a similar situation with the recent 100K as well. Like I was really struggling. I struggled quite early on because it was hot, and some of the guys near me, they were offering me like paracetamol, any of their food or drink. Like the ultra community is so chatty and supportive, which obviously you don't get in road running. Because for example, in a marathon, people are usually trying to aim for a time or obviously tick it off, get a 6-star medal or something like that. So in the ultra community, everyone's obviously just there, usually to finish, maybe to get a certain time, but usually just to obviously complete the challenge or raise money or something like that. So everyone is so supportive and so friendly. And it doesn't matter who you are, what age you are, what you look like. Everyone's just so chatty and so friendly.
I was trying to explain this to somebody the other day, but like, it's a different type of pain, isn't it? Like, it's not the same sort of pain as, I know we've referenced the marathon quite a few times, but like, it's not the same pain as if you're trying to run fast. It's just kind of
No.
like a pain that is, it's just there. And you just know that as long as it's not an injury, like you can probably suffer through it to get it done. But it's just there. It's like
Exactly.
it's like a dull 4 out of 10 constant.
Yeah, 100%. And it's like the stone in your shoe type of situation. Like it's bothering you, but you're fine. And yeah, it wasn't until like I really tried to pick up pace in the last 20K, the recent one, where I was like, why am I trying to cross paths of trying to run fast whilst I'm already in pain? I'm like layer upon layer of not feeling good right now. But I think with like a marathon, you know it's going to be done soon. I think that's the sort of thought process. You know that, okay, I'm really struggling, but within the next 3, 4, 5 hours, I'm going to be done. Whereas with an ultra, you're like, this could be all day. I could be going into the night for all I know. But as long as you, I think, can put one foot in front of the other, you can do an ultra. Maybe that's delusional. Maybe that's my optimism speaking. But I'm so convinced that most people could run an ultra. So it doesn't matter what time you do it in, unless you're really trying to get competitive in the field. It's just about getting the distance done and putting one foot in front of the other.
You really love it, don't you? I can tell like how much you love it.
Yeah.
You love it.
I absolutely love it. Everything about it, the community, the races. It's just like going on a fun expedition for a day and just chatting to loads of people and hearing their backstories. I absolutely love it.
Does it feel like a little bit of a, it's a weird one to ask you really, because it's like, I feel like you just love life in general, but does it feel like a little bit of an escape from everything else though? Because what I often like about those races is like for that day or for however long you're out there for, literally that is all that matters, isn't it? Like nothing
Yeah,
else matters apart from that,
yeah,
which I don't think you get in any other facet of life.
yeah. No, I definitely think, yeah, to an extent, it is like an escape of everything. All you're worried about is everything in check? Is everything attached? Nothing's falling off. Maybe a toenail, but nothing's falling off me. I'm intact. I'm not injured. What do I need to eat? When's the next aid station? That is all you're really thinking about. So yeah, I guess it is a bit of an escape, both mentally and physically. And I quite like not listening to music. When I did my 50 miler in February, it was just like a local one, and so I knew roughly where I had to go, sort of. So I didn't even really have to think too much about my watch. I honestly just thought about one foot in front of the other. I didn't even listen to music or anything until the last couple of kilometers. I just sort of focused on putting one foot in front of the other, enjoying the scenery, just my brain's in airplane mode. It is great. It's a great way to also, I think, process things as well. As crazy as this sounds, this is sort of going off on a tangent, but back to the first 100K. Before that, I could not talk about my granddad who passed away in COVID without bawling my eyes out, without absolute, like, I just couldn't. I'd choke up, you know, and your throat gets all scratchy. I couldn't do it. And then it's almost like a switch. As soon as I did the 100K, I could speak about it. It was really, really odd. So I also think it's a great way to process things. And I think there has been a few studies about dealing with like mental struggles or PTSD in ultramarathon running. Just because of the way it just helps you process things, and it's a bit of an escape from life. And it's just, I'm about to say, it's just you by yourself. Obviously, you're surrounded by people, but you really do sort of get to know who you are when you're in those pits during a race.
Ultramarathon or 100K number one has been ticked off. 100K number two has been ticked off. I'm going to do
Yeah.
that thing which I kind of hate doing, but yeah. What is coming next? Where is Emily going next?
So I am doing the Arc of Attrition 50 miler
Oh, amazing!
in January, which I'm really excited for. Everyone is saying how good it is. I'm absolutely buzzing. And obviously it's 50 miles, so still far, but not as far as the 100. I do have another 100K booked for next year. I can't say which one it is yet, but I have got another one booked because I wouldn't be rounding off a year if I'm not doing one of those. And I really want to do a backyard next year, because although I'm not the fastest person, I'm by no means calling myself slow at all. I'd say I'm like middle packer or like back of the front pack. I'm not exactly slow, but I know for a fact that I'm more of like a donkey than a racehorse. Like, I just will not give up.
Hello.
I will just keep going until I have to stop. Like, my body will shut down. So I'm really enticed by the idea of a backyard ultra. So I do think that is something that I want to do next year and try and get to that 100-mile mark, if not further.
I often when we're having these conversations on the podcast, like a lot of the time I'm thinking about things in my head, like, oh, she said a really nice thing there, or he said a really nice thing there, or like that's going to be an amazing teaser for the podcast. And I think I'm going to have to use I'm more of a donkey than a racehorse somewhere in the teasing of this.
Yeah, I just think
What a
that
phrase.
describes me quite well. A
What
donkey
a
rather than a
phrase.
racehorse. So that's the sort of mindset I'm going into next year with. Obviously, I want to tick off maybe a few marathons. But yeah, doing some like longer 100-mile plus races is what I'm hoping to do.
And it's got to be so exciting for you, you know, like you're kind of realistically pretty new into this world of everything you're doing, right? Like it's not even a year since you left uni, which I would imagine looking back on is mad to think that's the fact. Like, and you're at this point already, not only in your life and your kind of social media journey and your career, but like what I like to call your adventure CV. Already you've got all of these
Yeah.
amazing things kind of written down and like the medals are stacking up. But that's so exciting that there's so much more to come in the future. Is there a race or something that you kind of look towards when, you know, because there's no reason you couldn't go and do 100 milers in the next couple of years. Is there anything that you
Yeah.
look toward and you think, I'd love to do that at some point in the future? like a little bit further down the line?
Yeah, a lot further down the line, I'd love to do Moab 240.
Okay.
In America, it's like 240 miles, which is, I actually don't know the kilometers, what, 400k,
It
450k?
doesn't matter at that point, does it?
Right, yeah, numbers just become numbers at that point. I would love to do Moab at some point, or Cocodona. I think Moab is more my kind of vibe. But those sort of ones really, really entice me, like the ones where you are out for absolute days, just having like dirt naps and things like that. Really entice me, but that is a long distance goal, like in very far in the future, because I do want to be able to go and give it my absolute best go. I don't want to go and sort of give it a half an effort. I want to be able to go and actually really show up for myself and really try and push myself in a race like that. So that's like a big future goal. But we'll see. We'll see how things go.
And I think that's probably a really nice message to wrap things up on is the phrase you just said, show up for yourself. Because throughout this conversation, I think that's what you've proved that you've done, like over and over again, since going through a difficult period in your life. Like, you've showed up for yourself day by day, and that's how you've got to this point. And I think that's important for people listening, isn't it? To know that if you do continually show up to yourself, you can kind of reach whatever goal you want to reach.
Yeah, 100%. The time is going to pass either way. You either show up for yourself and you become someone that you really want to be and that you truly align with, or you let just time pass through you and you stay the exact same. And I'd argue that not changing at all is scarier than going through any type of change. So it is just so important that you do believe in yourself, you show up for yourself, because the sky's the limit, as cringe as it sounds, but it's so true. You can quite literally do anything you put your mind to. And I'm very convinced by that. I'm no different to anyone. I'm just a girl that's delusional enough to believe in herself. And I believe everyone should be the exact same.